For the longest time, I have dreamed of going to Idaho and chasing bull trout. As a 16-year-old, that fish was the first fish that I had on a quote-unquote bucket list. But when it all connects and you're able to find those rivers that produce the fish that you're looking for, that's an amazing moment. And the exploratory factor of, I took a risk, I took time out of my life to go wander up this creek or wander up this valley and up this mountain to see what I find. That's where I found my favorite moments in the outdoors. When you're going into something blind and it's completely your idea and you just don't know what you're gonna get, and it turns out better than what you thought it could be.
The outline of this trip is to not only see, but also fish Colorado, Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. It's just you, God's creation, and everything that He's blessed you with, and everything that you're gifted with, and you just get to enjoy it, and you get to admire it, and you get to use it, and use the plants, use the water, use the fish, and it's cool to put it into what it's supposed to be. And there's no distractions, there's no perfect timing.
Wish I could take your lips with me on the road, wherever I'd be. I'd kiss you goodnight in a far-off moonlight. I wish I could take your lips with me, listen to your little voice sing along with the radio, a song that someone else wrote, but I don't care. I just need you here. I wish I could take your eyes with me, show you all the things I've seen. My favorite Mexican bar, open air and big bright stars. And I see a spark in the making. I hope the rain don't come too soon. You got a hand for the taking, and I'm about to take it to the moon. I see a spark in the making. I hope the rain don't come too soon. You got a hand for the taking, and I'm about to take it to
So we just came from Grand Junction and we got in last night, and now we're in beautiful Utah, and we only have one day to fish before we head to Idaho. So we got up early this morning, we're gonna fish this river we know nothing about.
Holy smokes, babe. You're a stud. Didn't take you long. Really, we just wanted to catch a fish in Utah. So we showed up and we actually managed to do that. And that's a rewarding feeling to be able to show up to a river in a completely different state and just kind of learn how to fish it. And it took a little bit this morning, but we kind of nailed it down. We caught 4 or 5 fish, and man, it was pretty cool. Bam! Give me some, dude. Yeah. The one that's the kicker though is Justus's brown that she lost.
Hooked up on really big brown. It went deeper and took my line further and ended up coming off and losing it. So it was a bummer, because that would have been my biggest brown.
Man, we're closing in on 2 weeks on the road, and we're getting beat up, and just looking back on everything, it's honestly been an unforgettable experience, and something that we'll talk about for years and years, and something we'll tell our kids about in the future. And there's not very many times in life where you can just take off and hit the road for 2 weeks and just be in the mountains. We showed up to some of the backcountry in Idaho, and it was just gorgeous, gorgeous country. And we showed up as the sun was kind of setting too, and so that definitely helped like set the mood of like, this is awesome. And the canyon was so steep. I'd never experienced just country that was that steep, and it was awesome.
As we kept exploring and driving, we came across this huge canyon where we could get out and overlook, and it's in the river at the bottom is this huge gushing river. Cole's first thought was to hike down this huge canyon and go camp in it, but we decided to think on it first, so we ended up camping, and the stars were beautiful that night, and it was just super quiet. And then when we actually got to fish the river, it was an awesome river.
Whoa!
Just working on.
What an athlete!
Just working on my free climbing skills.
I don't think I want to try that.
I wouldn't recommend it. But the water was pretty warm. It was warm enough for me to wet wade in it. Our objective in this river was to look for bull trout, so it was probably too warm. We decided if I could be in it.
This country does such a good job of hiding its secrets and keeping people from, like, you can see it, but actually getting down into it and getting to enjoy it is a whole other thing. And, you know, everything is tight. Everything is tight on the river, everything is tight, and getting down there with fly rods, it's a pain. But part of me loves that part because I know not very many people are doing it. We showed up to a huge pool to start out with, and I had a streamer on it. I got a pretty big eat, and I was like, oh, it's on, bull trout, bull trout. It ended up just being a nice West Slope cutty, but seeing those West Slope cutthroat was a pretty good indication to me. Is like, a lot of times those West Slope cuts and those bull trout are gonna be intermingled, so I knew that we were in the right area and that there was a good chance to find bull trout, and the water was colder. Kept on getting down to this country, and it was just steep, and we were falling and slipping and getting all scraped up.
And it really ended up beating all of us up in the end, including Native. We were all just cut up and sore and just tired from going up and down constantly.
But the river was gorgeous, and it's definitely the coolest river I've ever seen. And finally, I put a bigger white streamer on, and on the first cast with this streamer, just out of the depths comes this just monster bull trout, and just probably a 30 to 35 inch fish that, like, I saw it and instantly started shaking. And I was just like, I've never seen anything like that. Just coming out of the depths, so confident, and it followed my streamer all the way back to my feet and just never committed. He was like 3 inches away from being my favorite fish I've ever caught. He just didn't commit. He just knew something wasn't quite right. But what that did for me was like, all right, they're here. Now it's time to lock in. And at this point, it's probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can't walk up this river. One, it's too deep and you get cliffed out because there's just giant cliff faces. So you can't just walk up the river. So you have to go climb up out of the canyon and then climb back down over and over and over again, and it's exhausting. I climbed up on this boulder and I was able to throw the streamer, and as soon as the fly hit the water, just an eruption. And I set the hook and nothing. I was like, that was my shot. That was it. That's what we drove up here for, and I blew it. I stripped some line back in, quickly put another cast in, and just like that, it blew up on it again a second time. But this time, I was able to come tight on it. And I go, bull trout, bull trout! And I just start screaming, hoping that she could hear me all the way up on top of the trail. I'm fighting this trout, and behind me, I just hear something like falling down the cliff.
Hold on!
I look behind me, and it's my wife just like sliding down the hill. She finally comes to a stop, catching one of my favorite fish of my lifetime and trying to be a good husband at the same time. And I'm looking back, I'm like, are you good? Are you good? And she gives me like a weak thumbs up and gets up and starts filming again. And she clearly like not great, but she's battling through, and she ends up getting up on top of that boulder with me, and we're able to land that fish. And man, I was just, I couldn't believe that we just showed up and were able to find a bull trout. And that definitely highlight of my trip. I mean, that's why we were here. It's been such a long time coming to be able to go and catch a bull trout. It's not every day you get to go catch the #1 fish on your bucket list. And I was able to go do it and do it with my wife and, you know, do it on our own and not have to have a guide or anything like that. Like that's kind of the way that I think Justus and I like it. We like to go figure it out. And because we do it that way, we have a lot of unsuccessful trips. Like the first river we showed up to, it was too warm and, you know, we made the best out of it, but not everything is that successful. After that, we really did not find very many bull trout. I mean, that was kind of the last fish that we found, and we fished hard after that. And so we packed the truck up, and you know, this is a road trip, and we hit the road again. But this time we were deep in the heart of Idaho backcountry, and so we had to take a bunch of back roads purposely to get to our next area that we were going to. And just getting to see all the different country and getting to stop and take notes on all these different rivers and creeks that we were crossing over was awesome. That's kind of like the best way to learn a state and learn a section of wilderness is to drive through it and to see it and get a feel for what's in there and what's not in there.
But I mean, the country that we covered was amazing because it's not country you would see on regular roads. It's all back roads, dirt roads, and we just saw tons of different rivers. One more spot that we're gonna check out for bull trout in this tiny creek. So we kept on trekking through all the amazing country, and when we finally got to this area of this creek, and it was breathtaking. It was probably the most beautiful area that I've ever seen. When we got to this creek, I was pretty skeptical because it's a super small creek. It's like a creek you would find small cutthroat trout in, but Cole was pretty confident, and so it's like, okay, if there's bull trout in here, I guess they're hidden in here somewhere. When Cole finally caught that first one, I mean, we were amazed that there was even bull trout in here because it's so small. My favorite part of catching a new fish or new species is actually getting, because you know, you can see pictures and whatever, and those are cool, but when you actually get to hold and see and look at the detail in a new species and see what makes this fish cool.
They just match this river bottom so well. Like I normally am pretty good at being able to pick out fish in a creek like this. I could not pick these fish out. I think I spotted about 2 fish out of this creek. In 2 days of fishing, I spotted about 2 fish before I caught them. And the only time you ever see them is when they're chasing your streamer. It is nuts, and maybe I need to get my eyes checked or something, but it is really cool to see those fish just at home, right where they need to be. No way.
Nice! That's a good fish! Oh!
Fresh coffee grounds. Gotta have them.
Hot water.
The point of doing these videos is not to blow up people's spots or blow up areas or anything like that, but And that's why we don't ever say what rivers we're at. And I have people ask all the time, like, where is this? And you know, if you give people your spots away, sometimes it ruins the fun for them. I mean, some of my favorite moments in fly fishing are the blind trips like this one, where we're going into all these places blind and trying to figure out where these fish are going to be.
I'm packing my things light with the chance that I should leave, and waiting for sunrise so that someone may see. I want the dream life with enough things to pick me up when I'm falling.
Good.
Give me the dream house with enough space to hide away when I'm off it. I'm tired of feeling like I don't know what to do, and looking at past lives, that's what I never. Selfish, broken throne. I'm neither you older, but much further from the
We've got McBrown.